Let's get on Matthew Stafford.
Matthew Stafford.
Jules, what's the first thing you think of when you hear of Matthew Stafford? I can tell you this. I'll go first.
What do you think?
First overall pick to the Detroit Lions, because that's when I started becoming a true NFL fan, was about 2008, 2009, 2010. I was always an NFL fan, but I really got interested in it and in everything that was going on with the draft because I wanted to get drafted, and that was my ultimate goal. So then when I got to college, I started really particularly paying attention to the draft, and that was truly the first draft I truly paid attention to. Because why? Because I wanted to get drafted eventually. And number two, my brother was in this draft, like I said, and he got drafted to the Detroit Lions as well the same year as Matthew Stafford, going number 1 overall. But my brother was a seventh round pick. I think he was the second last pick overall as well in the draft.
Mr. Irrelevant Eve?
Oh, yeah, Mr. Irrelevant Eve. So it was close to being one of the last picks in the draft. But that's why I know about this guy. I've been following Matthew Stafford his whole entire career, and that's why the Detroit Lions first overall pick is what I first think of when I hear Matthew Stafford. How about you, Julian?
I mean, a tale of two careers.
Mm-hmm.
He started his career in Detroit, and his numbers were always gaudy. He's always been able to sling it, had Megatron, and then the crazy trade after Goff leads the Rams to a Super Bowl. They trade him for Stafford. Stafford comes in first year, wins the Super Bowl, and has been going to the playoffs ever since. I mean, it's crazy to really think about how big the ecosystem is for a guy at the position of quarterback. And you know, it's been a great comeback story. And it really wasn't a comeback story for playing well, but a comeback story for getting to experience winning. I mean, playing Detroit had to be tough. This is, you know, I know for the young fans, everyone thinks Detroit's been good for these last couple years, but you know, it's been a rough place, historically rough place to play, and for him to get to experience a lot of the success he's had has been really fun to watch. Actually got to throw with him once.
What was that like? I remember you were talking about it because Matthew Stafford got brought up somehow when we were watching one of the games, and then I was just like, Jules, you ever throw with him? Because I know he's been out here in LA a few times, and you're always throwing with 50 different quarterbacks in the offseason when you were playing. I was like, yo, you ever throw with Stafford? And you're like, yeah. So what was that like, Jules?
Dude, he was one of the most impressive just natural throwers I've ever thrown with. I mean, usually, you know, I'd go to Tom House's and his little like camp. Tom would go and throw with him, and then when Tom would leave town, I would still want quarterback throws, so I'd go throw with a bunch of different pros that would be coming in town to work with them. And one day Stafford comes in, and, you know, you go out there, and sometimes guys don't know your timing. You know, everything's timing routes. You know, your big out, your 10 to 12 yard out, your 5 yard out, your curls, your deep posts, your crosses, your seams, post high seam, your middle field open seam. So there's a lot of stuff going. And sometimes, you know, the timing can be off. So guys will miss you here because they don't know how you break down your weight or this, that, and the other routes on air. You know, with him, I think we threw 44 balls, and I think we went 44 for 44. I mean, I don't think a ball touched the ground. Another guy that, like, I was just super impressed with throwing. Like, that's what it was like always with, you know, Brady, because we knew each other. But you go with different guys. Some guys would, you know, they didn't know your body mechanics. Well, he did.
Well, that's what makes a great quarterback great, is that they can adjust to the receiver that they're throwing to and be able to pick up their tendencies as well, to be able to place the ball where they need to place the ball because of the way that you're moving out there out on the field as a wide receiver. And that's just the skill set, one of the skill sets that Matthew Stafford has that makes him, you know, so great. He's one of the most talented quarterbacks, I would say, to ever play the game. He has durability as well. He has elite arm strength. There is no doubt about that. What was it like? Was he just like firing bullets to you? Or
flick of wrist.
Just a flick of a wrist.
Flick of a wrist.
It's like he wasn't even trying.
You know those, like, you know when you run like a deep bow from the slot where you go in 6 up to about 15, roll it over 20, 24? Like, he would do his play action, come off of it, and woo! And that thing would be on a rope like hit you like 4 or 5 yards before the sideline. That's when you could see guys, our arm strength is those outbreaking deep routes when that ball gets up on you. Like he had great ball placement. The ball was always where it had to be. And that's a processing thing. When a guy can process a receiver, he does that very well. What were we watching right before this? The mic'd up. What was it?
When he was on the Detroit Lions, and it just showed his toughness as well. He is one tough mofo.
He's tough mofo.
If you know what a mofo is, that's a mother trucker.
Mofo.
But you take the T word, the T letter, and you switch it with the F. But mofo, mother trucker, but switch the T and F. And I'm pretty sure it was like week 10, week 11, or week 12 in 2009. So I think he was just a rookie.
Was it
so he had to
rookie
prove
year?
himself. He had to prove himself that he's a tough SOB, and he wanted to change the culture in Detroit, and this is what it takes. And I remember he got this is the era where you can absolutely slam a quarterback still. And let me tell you, that era was just lovely to watch as a fan. Even as a player, you're like, oh man, that quarterback just got smacked, brother. And like
they were driving the weight.
They look like this on the field after every hit too, but they always managed to go back in the game, just like Stafford did. He was laying on the field like this. And he got absolutely
all
pummeled.
the weight on him.
All the weight. The
definitely
guy picked him
separated
up.
his shoulder.
I think he separated his non-throwing arm shoulder. They followed him the whole entire time on the clip, and he was just screaming in agony of just pain. And you've been there.
We've all been there.
I've been there. But as a quarterback, you're like, oh, he's done, But Stafford showed his toughness.
Cleveland called a timeout. I don't understand that one.
And then Jules, explain the rest, what happened from there. He went to the sidelines. They checked him out. They're like, oh, your shoulder. Cleveland called a timeout. And then there was also pass interference in the play. So then it was 1st and goal, I think, with just a couple seconds left on the 1. And they needed a touchdown to win the game. And what happened from there, Jules?
Yeah, he rolled out and he was able to deliver the football. I mean, the guy clearly was in excruciating pain and was able to go out and win the football game. That was impressive, man. That's tough. We've been around some guys that have hurt their non-throwing shoulder that didn't play when they could have played. And a young guy like him trying to get the respect of his team early in his career, that's how you do it. You get your teeth kicked in, you pick them up, you put them back in your mouth, and you go play the next play. And that's what Matthew Stafford did all his career. Watching his no-look throws, like we all watch Patrick Mahomes. We watch all these guys do the no-look. Joe Burrow. He was doing that 15, 16 years ago.
He was kind of like under the radar, one of the originals to do that.
He was on a shitty team, so you don't get the highlight.
How about him as well? He was played with Calvin Johnson, absolute beast, Megatron. He got him the record for most receiving yards ever in a year. And then he goes to L.A. and then he gives triple crowns, Cooper Kupp, which is just unbelievable. Those two definitely couldn't have done it without Stafford as well. I think that's one of the coolest things that Stafford has in his resume, that he could do that. And Jules, you threw with Stafford. Is there any other cool quarterbacks? I talked about you. I know you throw them with a couple quarterbacks here in L.A. Any other QBs that you?
I used to throw a lot with Castle. I would throw a lot with Leinart because all the L.A. guys.
Leinart.
Russell Wilson, Carson Palmer,
did
Jared Goff.
Did Russell Wilson throw you?
Herbert was out there a couple times. Never threw with him though.
I want to hear about Russell Wilson's deep ball.
Russell Wilson he has a great deep ball. What was that like?
Great deep ball,
dude. He throws teardrops, man. He throws that thing so high. I was really impressed with his deep ball too, because I was coming off my ACL. We went to UCLA, and he was in town, and he was trying to get some work in. And he was, his deep ball, it's a real deal. Like when everyone talks about it, and you could always tell a really good deep ball is a quarterback that throws it really, really high, and it lets you run in, and it drops right up in that bucket. Like a good deep ball thrower, you'll see the nose of the ball go up, and it'll come down. And he throws a really good deep ball. Carson used to throw really good, like deep bows, those out bows that he used to hit to Chad. Castle was just throwing missiles always. We used to go with Kenny O'Brien, and he was a quarterback coach out in Manhattan Beach. We'd go over there.
Did you throw with any other quarterbacks?
I've
never really have, man. I always was loyal to my quarterbacks, Jules. Unlike you, that's why, Tom loves me the most. He knew you're going out to LA and throwing with 50 different quarterbacks. But I only threw with Tom in the offseason, Hoyer.
I threw with Hoy.
And literally
Jimmy G.
The only other quarterback,
Stidham.
I swear, in my whole entire career that I threw with was Jameis Winston one time.
Where?
In Tampa.
In Tampa?
I was in Tampa for an appearance. And I went to Top Golf, and Jameis Winston was there. And I ran into him. And then he's like, yo, I'm throwing tomorrow. You want to throw some routes? And I was like, not a problem, my man. Let's throw some routes. I just met him real quick. That's all we really talked about. I showed up, and we threw some routes, man. And it was just great. I loved him, man. He had a lot of passion for the game. He was.
How was his ball?
He was great. His ball was good, man.
He seems like he's got it's a lot of centrifugal force, a lot of spin.
Yeah, good spin. Couple ducks once in a while, but that was okay as long as the ball got there, the right placement. But that's fine. But what I really liked about him that he was intrigued that Tom Brady was my quarterback, and he kept asking me questions about Tom because he wanted to learn from Tom. And you could tell, like, he wanted to get better as a player, and he kept bringing up, like, what does Tom do on this play? What does Tom do
What'd you tell him?
And I just said, hey, this is what Tom does. This is how he places the ball.
You told Tom's information? See, that's
just a little bit.
I
didn't
never
go into
said
depth
anything.
too far. But
everyone asked me, hey, what's Tom? I said, fuck you. I'm not telling you shit.
I never went into depth too far, Jules.
I'm not telling you shit.
Okay?
I won't tell you any. Tom would be so, Tom was, whenever we would throw anywhere, it would be like, we'd have like Secret Service scanning the fucking field. Tom didn't want anyone to coming in and watching us. Remember that? Like, we'd hop the fence, break laws at UCLA. Alex would be coming over. He'd
There'd be like a helicopter above us, making sure that no one was watching.
It was like
filming.
He did not want anyone watching our fucking practices. He hated it.
Not at all.
I liked it though. I like that. I like that he didn't like it.
Mentality because then it brings bullshit and it brings extra.
We're here to work.
Curricular activities that you don't want because you're just trying to work. So I'm all in for that, and that's being a leader too. Hey, this is work time. Get the fuck away from us. We got to work. We're not taking pictures. We're not signing
Let's get
autographs.
back to Stafford.
Oh, Stafford, you're right.
Whoa. So wait.
Well, first of all, Jameis Winston, I loved him too. He was a great dude. He was fun to throw with, by the way.
I bet.
But back to Stafford. We all know he's a tough SOB, one of the most talented quarterbacks.
What do you got against him?
I got nothing against him. Besides,
when you got traded to Detroit, you said, I'm retiring. I don't want to play with fucking Matthew Stafford. What do you got against him?
I got nothing against him. That wasn't because of Matthew Stafford.
What was it because of?
The only thing against him, I would say, is that he's never been to the playoffs a ton of times with that much talent. I mean, that's the only thing that you can argue versus him, but it's because of the teams that I would say he was on. Like in Detroit, the teams were all awful. And then you get to LA, he's going to the playoffs all the time. It just shows that football is a complete game as well. But
I'm just busting your balls.
I know, but what do I have against him? I have nothing against Detroit, Jules. I already talked about what happened in that trade. I was kind of being a very big asshole that year in the offseason. I sure was. And I wanted to be, okay? I thought it was fun. I was just matching the energy in the organization, okay? Hey. So I turned into an asshole. I never knew I had it, but when you're in that organization long enough, you can turn into one. I finally did. Bill called me like 80 times. I didn't answer one of them. Next thing you know, I get a text from my agent, hey, you're traded to the Lions. I was like, I knew that was going to happen because I wasn't answering Bill's calls. I knew he was going to freaking pull a
and what'd you do?
Mighty power move on me. So then I was like, hey, Drew, you can't trade a guy that just retired. so then Drew hit up Page's organization. Hey, Rob just retired. We're sorry. You can't trade him. And then it was literally about to go down and break it in the news too, like in 2 hours. Like the whole trade literally went down without me even knowing. This was right before we won the Super Bowl. It was right after the game. It was off season after we lost to the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl because you got hurt because you're a sissy and you didn't want to play in that game. So we lost because of you, Jules.
ACL.
Yeah.
I practiced that week, remember?
You should have played. So then he traded me, but I didn't want to go anywhere. I was just being an asshole. And deep down, I was not leaving Bill. I love you, buddy. I wasn't going to leave you, just a little tension in all relationships. But then we smoothed it out after I said I was retired. And then I came back to the Patriots that year, and it all worked out. We won the Super Bowl. We beat the Los Angeles Rams in Atlanta. Wait, nope.
Because we beat the Rams.
It was Jared Goff at the time. It wasn't
Because we beat them.
we beat the Rams. Matthew Stafford got traded to the Rams. So what kind of dude is Matthew Stafford?
I mean, he's definitely got he's got dog tendencies. He acted like a dog in that mic'd up rookie year, breaking his shoulder. He's definitely a dog. He's definitely a stud.
He's a stud. He's more of a stud than a dog, I would say. Definitely a dog.
First
dog
overall pick.
But stud, I mean.
Mr. Texas in football.
Like he can just sit back in the pocket. Stud just sits back.
Super Bowl win.
You know, combs their hair.
Hall of Fame numbers.
You know, brushes their hair off, brushes their shoulder, and just boom, zips the ball without even knowing. Like
he's also a dude's dude, though.
And right when he processes the guy that's open, kaboom, kaboom.
I think he invited me to do something right after. Like we met for the first time. He's like, "You want to have some beers?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can't make it." Well, but like he's that kind of dude. He's definitely a dude's dude.
I never met him though before. So is he a dude's dude, Jules?
I think
or is he a stud?
On threes. 1, 2, 3. Stud. He's definitely a stud.
All right, we're on the same page.